Hello, I'm Will the Gamer, and today I'm going to talk about the humans. So for the most part, I don't need to go over the descriptions of what humans look like, as I'm pretty sure we all know what we look like. So instead, I'm just going to skip straight into their lore. Humans are the second most populous species next to orcs. It is unknown exactly when humans started appearing upon the planet, but it had to have been sometime after the Age of Monsters, but just at the start of the Age of Dragons. During the Age of Dragons, most of humanity was scattered across all the continents and had to find various ways to survive. However, almost all human civilizations became masters of siegecraft and the defense of castles. Each human civilization made different types of castles in order to defend themselves from the orcs and other threats. Some castles were massive labyrinths of stone, whereas others were filled with traps and other deadly machinations. Needless to say, their expert castle building led to their ongoing survival. This is because humans were jacks of all trades, but really masters of none. The other races survived having a specialized single set of skills, which they mastered completely. However, humans survived by having versatility rather than a singular focus. They used knights to make a shield wall of defense, while they used mages and archers to rain death from above. However, the weakness of this was that the humans were pretty much stuck in their castles and couldn't really make an offensive. They had to use their limited numbers where they were best capable of defending themselves. Thus, each human castle was like an island in a sea of orcs. However, some human settlements did thrive in these times, capable of doing more than just defending. This was usually because the orc threat in the region was either very low, or the orcs were more preoccupied with fighting each other. Such settlements became small human kingdoms, though they were usually just layered fortresses. These fortresses were so well built to withstand a siege that they still stand today. Needless to say, these small human kingdoms that developed over time had their differences. This may have been because they were so far separated from each other that, well, they had developed their own unique cultures. Many of them had tried to start alliances with each other to try and bolster their kingdom, but so many disagreements came in the form of cultural differences. Some of these differences were so great, these kingdoms were at war with each other. However, the distance was so great usually between these kingdoms at war that they never actually fought, mostly because there was an ocean of orcs between them. Thus, when the elves came to them seeking a unified alliance of humans, elves, dwarves, fae, and gnomes, they were a bit hesitant. The humans never really trusted the elves because they never came down from their mountains to help them. And on many attempts, the humans had tried to trade with the dwarves, but the dwarves were such shrewd traders and were never willing to give up anything of real value. As far as the fae were concerned, they were at complete and open war with them. This was because the humans needed wood for their castles and other things, and the fae didn't want them taking it. And well, when it came to the gnomes, they didn't really respect them as anything more than annoying rodents that broke your stuff. However, humans were pretty sick and tired of living in fear of constant orc raids. So the humans made some pretty shrewd deals with the elves. They demanded before they joined that the elves teach them better, more powerful magic, and that the dwarves would provide them with heavy armor and equipment. As you could probably guess, the warlike nature of humans wasn't the first thing the elves wanted to trust. However, they did eventually make a bitter agreement to do so. The elves taught the human mages how to print magic tattoos on their skin, and the dwarves offered them the technology necessary to make their incredible arms and armor. With these new arms and magic, they were able to lift the sieges on several dwarf holds and elven settlements, after which they led a mass exodus to the new capital of Pendragon. Here, the new empire would build a fortress city several kilometers in distance. It was the greatest thing any of them had ever built. However, the orcs didn't take kindly to them building a giant stone fortress in the middle of their lands. The orcs took it as a direct challenge to their might and combined forces to attack Pendragon. However, now with the combined might of the humans, they were no match for the defenders of Pendragon. Pendragon was able to hold for years and years before the defenders became exhausted. Yes, they were holding out fine against the orc raids, but life had to be more than just fighting orcs. Thus, the great human leader Alexandros decided to lead the forces of the empire past the walls and out into orc territory. His objective was to completely annihilate many orc camps in the region, thus freeing up much of the production of new orc warriors. After the orcs had launched a massive attack on Pendragon and failed miserably, he decided to make his counterattack. The unprepared orcs were not ready for Empire legionnaires to come marching into their camps. This, combined with the fact that orcs had literally never been on the defensive, they had no walls to protect them. The attack was unbiased in its slaughter of orc men, women, and children. The Empire Legionnaires put them to the sword like cattle, taking out years of vengeance upon them. The surviving orcs from the initial raid ran together to make one giant orc hold. This hold held thousands of orcs, and they prepared defenses this time for the inevitable Empire attack. However, Alexandros was prepared for this and completely crushed their defenses. Empire Legionnaires surrounded them and once again slaughtered them like animals. However, in the final battle, Alexandros became arrogant and decided to take on the leader of the orcs himself. Charging ahead without support, Alexandros was quickly surrounded by orcs and cut down. However, the day was still won, and all orcs on the field were slaughtered. And from then on out, Alexandros' bravery went down in history, and a new tradition in the Empire was formed: crusading. Crusades consisted of mass purgings of orcs. Crusading armies from the Empire would go out killing as many orcs as they could get their hands on. Later, this would be seen as a holy duty, as orcs were considered the spawn of the anathema, the equivalent to Satan in the Empire's religion. This tradition of crusading would eventually become the primary cause of the rebellion. This is because the Crusades would later on expand to encompass more than just orcs. The Crusades began to slaughter anything that was considered abhorrent or grotesque. This led to the near extinction of demi-humans, trolls, and goblins. And it would have led to the near extinction of the Villis if the Villis hadn't been smart enough to get on their ships and leave. However, with the orcs' rapid reproduction, they were never really threatened with extinction. However, that didn't mean that they were okay with having their villages purged and their children slaughtered. So, really, hashtag blame the humans for the rebellion. Okay, it wasn't entirely their fault, but still, they're the main contributor. So anyways, humanity would continue to play a pivotal role in the Empire, seeing military service within the Empire as a great honor. The different human cultures were eventually reunited, but they all stayed somewhat different. Their combined arms tactics were unified, however their unique cultures were still respected. To this day, humans still make the backbone of the Imperial military, and they are still also the most populous race in the Empire, making up over half the Empire's population. Their versatility as a species allows them to fill many roles within society. As far as playable classes within the game, they can operate as acolytes, archers, duelists, enchanters, mages, priests, thieves, warlocks, and warriors. The only class they are incapable of becoming is a druid, and this is because the Fae refuse to teach them any druidic techniques. A bit of a grudge held from the time before the Empire. So that's all I'm going to talk about with the humans today. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below. Anyways, this is Will the Gamer, signing out.